Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, 10-2. Record this season, 8-2 in one-score games. Enjoy it while it lasts. Here's Bo Nix talking about handling the team's success.
The worst thing you can do is let other people tear down a 10-2 record, whether it's saying you don't play anybody or, you're just relying on defense or whatever negative somebody's going to put on a positive. It's always going to happen, and we don't really worry about it.
Winner. I see a winner.
It's not negative or tearing down. It's providing context. That's what smart people, smart shows do. They provide context to the Broncos' gaudy 10-2 record. I mean, again, imagine if we didn't tell the audience last year, hey, the Chiefs, I know they were 15-2, and they went like 11-0 in one-score games, but the numbers don't say they were great, and then this year they stink. So we're trying to help you guys out. Bo, I'm not coming after the Broncos.
Right.
Just providing context, right?
Yeah, and also, last year when the Chiefs went 11-0, it was disturbing because Mahomes was a veteran. Bo Nix is still young. You give him a little bit of a pass, but I don't think there's any and I like him. I'm a devoted Sean Payton believer.
Yes.
And I love Bo Nix, but he's been really, really uneven. It's a lot. I said this yesterday, and I think this is fair. He and Caleb are talented, and they're very good late, but you don't quite know in the first three quarters what you're getting, whereas Drake May, I feel like first snap on, I get the same guy. So I think the criticisms for Bo Nix, I think he's gotten better over the last couple of weeks, but I think all the criticisms are totally, absolutely, inarguably fair. And I think Sean Payton and he have probably had conversations, and they're acknowledging he's uneven right now.
Yeah, he's inconsistent. I mean, the reality is, Colin, he's a second-year quarterback.
That's right.
If I told you when they drafted Bo Nix, in year two, they'll be 10-2 through 12 games and the number one seed, you would take that in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
Enjoy it. It's great. Live in the moment.
But I will
throwback jerseys.
I will say, if they go to the playoffs, and I'm just throwing a team out, and they played Houston with that pass rush, and you said there's going to be an upset in round one, right? You'd be like, oh, I don't feel good about this, because what's going to happen in the AFC is Denver could end up facing one of these teams that have the ability to be scary. Like the team that I would not want to play in the AFC, I've said I wouldn't want to play the Seahawks in the NFC because they're going to, they're not favored like the Rams or the Packers. Seattle's going to come in. They play great East Coast, West Coast. Houston, Kansas City this weekend, O-line injuries.
All right, the focus now shifts to the Denver Broncos. Let's dive in. First, I need to address the overarching context. There's a common refrain we hear, exemplified by commentators like J-Mac discussing past teams, say a Chiefs squad that went 15-2. The argument goes, sure, they had a great record, but look at all those one-score games. They weren't as dominant as they seemed. My counterpoint is always foundational. They reached the Super Bowl. They navigated the AFC gauntlet and emerged as the conference's representative. Did they get soundly defeated by the Philadelphia Eagles in that final game? Unquestionably. But the fact of their arrival on that stage is an immutable data point. It is the ultimate rebuttal to arguments built solely on the perceived flimsiness of their victory margins. They defeated the Buffalo Bills and others to get there. The destination itself carries immense weight. This brings me to a second crucial distinction regarding those Kansas City teams, before we fully pivot to Denver. Those Chiefs often secured victories in a manner that felt precarious. The prevailing sentiment watching them was, this feels somewhat fluky. It's almost insane that they're pulling this out in this particular fashion. The triumphs weren't necessarily showcases of sustained, overwhelming brilliance from Patrick Mahomes or a cascade of flawless game-winning drives. As analysts like Colin have noted, that Chiefs core featured an established veteran quarterback-coach duo with a long proven history. That's a fundamentally different dynamic from what we see in Denver today, which is a second-year partnership between quarterback Bo Nix and head coach Sean Payton. The contexts are incomparable. The running joke about those Chiefs was that they won through a kind of magical voodoo or inexplicable fortune. And when you examine specific moments, like the miraculous blocked field goal return against the Denver Broncos, that perspective becomes understandable. There were numerous instances where the outcome seemed to defy probability. The reaction was a bewildered, how on earth did that just happen? This is categorically not the narrative surrounding the 2024 Denver Broncos. Their victories, particularly the dramatic ones, have not stemmed from bizarre strokes of luck or opponent meltdowns. Consider the decisive two-point conversion to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. That wasn't a gift. It was a perfectly executed, high-pressure play. Their wins have been characterized by courageous football, exemplary defensive stands, clutch quarterback performances in critical moments, and sturdy offensive line play. The Broncos are earning their triumphs through demonstrable, high-level execution in pivotal situations. There is a fundamental qualitative difference between winning via chaos and winning via clutch competency under duress. The pervasive tendency in some quarters to diminish or bag on the Broncos' accomplishments has become genuinely obnoxious. The defense often offered is, "We're just adding context." I am a staunch advocate for contextual analysis. I incorporate it constantly. We absolutely should have the nuanced conversation about sustainability when a team boasts 8 one-score victories, 6 game-winning drives, and 5 fourth-quarter comebacks. Examining the longevity of such a trend is not only fair but necessary for intelligent discourse. However, there exists a critical, often blurred line between adding context to foster a healthy, skeptical inquiry and adding context to seed definitive doubt. These are not synonymous. Skepticism is a neutral, evidence-based posture. It says, "This team has been remarkably resilient in close games. The frequency makes me somewhat uncomfortable. I'd like to see more consistent, commanding performances from the quarterback to feel entirely secure about their playoff viability." That's a reasonable, analytical stance. It acknowledges the record while probing its foundation. Doubt, in the pejorative sense used here, is a conclusion masquerading as context. It asserts, "This team is actually not that good because of all these close wins," drawing a definitive judgment from the data rather than an open-ended question. It uses context not to explore, but to dismiss. You can have the full conversation, acknowledging ugly performances against the Jets or the Raiders, discussing stretches where Bo Nix's stat line was quiet, without being a hater or attempting to tear down a 10-2 record. The key is telling the entire story, the shaky games and the resilient, clutch victories. Omitting either half is intellectually dishonest. This dichotomy has been on my mind for days. I had intended to create a segment on this very topic after observing similar discussions on other platforms, where the Broncos' roller coaster victories were framed almost exclusively through a lens of unsustainable fortune. The reemergence of this narrative provides the perfect opportunity to articulate my perspective. What I find particularly fascinating is the apparent confidence disparity in the broader league landscape. Many analysts and fans seem to place greater faith in teams with inferior records to Denver's 10-2 and nearly 11-1 mark. There's a palpable sense that other franchises are more dangerous or more in control. The Kansas City Chiefs, despite a worse record, are still widely perceived as the more formidable playoff entity. Discussions about the Houston Texans inspire a certain belief. Before their recent stumble, the Indianapolis Colts were viewed similarly. Shifting conferences, the Los Angeles Rams are seen as a more controlled, complete operation. The Seattle Seahawks and Green Bay Packers are often described with more certainty. Even the Chicago Bears, who've had their own share of close calls, don't seem to attract the same degree of skepticism about their fundamental quality. I would wager that in a hypothetical matchup between the Broncos and any of those teams, Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit, a significant portion of the analytical community would express more confidence in Denver's opponent. Look at the discourse before the Dallas Cowboys played the Lions. Had the Broncos not already defeated Dallas head-to-head this season, few would have favored Denver. And even with that head-to-head result in hand, detractors would likely argue, that was a different team then, effectively dismissing the evidence. This collective lack of confidence in the Broncos, despite their superior win total, is a striking phenomenon. It's crucial to understand why this skepticism exists. When the Broncos mount a comeback or secure a narrow win, it is typically predicated on spectacular, big-time football plays, a critical third-down conversion, a perfectly placed deep ball, a game-sealing defensive stop. Their victories are etched by moments of high individual and unit execution under extreme pressure. From a pure sustainability standpoint, yes, relying on a continuous supply of such heroics is not a long-term blueprint for perennial success. You cannot realistically expect to replicate this year after year. However, and this is the pivotal distinction, you can absolutely sustain it for a single season. Furthermore, A team that demonstrates this clutch gene early does not preclude its evolution into a more consistently dominant force as the season progresses. The capacity for late-game magic does not automatically condemn a team to perpetual precariousness. This brings us to the perfect litmus test, the upcoming rematch with the Las Vegas Raiders. Their first meeting was one of Denver's ugly performances. Since that game, we have witnessed what appears to be a tangible step forward in Bo Nix's development and the offense's cohesion. I have defended Nix throughout the season, pushing back against narratives of extreme inconsistency, especially in comparisons to other young quarterbacks. While he remains a young player prone to mistakes and occasional uneven play, an undeniable truth, the portrayal of him as a primary liability or a wildly erratic presence is, in my assessment, an oversimplification. Early season struggles have been unfairly cast as the defining feature of his entire campaign, overshadowing clearer, more proficient play in recent weeks. Therefore, this Raiders game is profoundly instructive. If the Broncos have genuinely turned a corner, with Nix operating at an elevated level and the team in rhythm, this is a contest they should control and win with authority. We can acknowledge divisional rivalry quirks, but at its core, this should be a business-like handling. A dominant performance where Nix looks composed, the offense executes cleanly, and the outcome is never in serious doubt would be a powerful statement. A close score in the final minutes due to prevent defense concessions is irrelevant. The focus is on the flow and quality of play for the majority of the game. Conversely, if this becomes another white-knuckle affair requiring a last-minute drive or a sloppy, low-scoring struggle, it would rightly shift my assessment along the spectrum toward concern. It would suggest the team is still struggling to synthesize its components consistently, and that Nix's progression might be more halting than hoped. I am not demanding a 38-3 blowout. The metric is control. Was it a clean, high-quality game? Was there ever a legitimate risk of losing to an inferior opponent? Did Nix look poised and in command, or rushed and uncertain? The final score is less important than the answers to these qualitative questions. This is what makes such a game against a struggling opponent far more meaningful for Denver than it might be for another team. Often, a blowout over a weak foe offers few takeaways. But for the Broncos, given their season's narrative arc, this is a critical benchmark. It's not about declaring, "We've arrived," after one win. It's about stacking evidence. Another performance showcasing a connected offense, a persistently dominant defense, and, most importantly, clear, continued elevation from Bo Nix, their second-year quarterback, would carry immense significance. This last point is essential. If Nix were a seasoned 5-year veteran, this discussion would be moot. His play would be the finished product. But his status as a developing player changes the calculus entirely. We are actively observing his growth curve. Is he learning? Is he improving from month to month? Are the mistakes decreasing while the big plays remain? Positive answers to these questions signal not just success for this season, but a radically brighter future. It transforms the narrative from lucky team catching breaks to ascending team with a franchise quarterback coming into his own. So, while some may dismiss this matchup as meaningless, I believe there are still substantial takeaways available for this team and this quarterback. The process of evaluation is ongoing, and this game is another vital data point. I encourage everyone to engage with this nuance. The simplistic mantra of, "You are what your record is something I frequently challenge, because I guarantee no competent coaching staff operates that way. A staff sitting at 10-2 is not ignoring problematic defensive trends or inconsistent quarterback play simply because they're winning. They are in those meeting rooms saying, "We've been fortunate, we need to clean this up to keep winning." If the professionals aren't allowing blind record worship, then as observers, we too can and should engage in layered discussion. We must discern when context is being added for deeper understanding and when it's being wielded as a tool for predetermined dismissal. Sometimes doubt is warranted, other times it's a reflexive undervaluation of resilience and clutch performance. That is my comprehensive breakdown. I am absolutely eager to hear your perspectives. What is your analysis of the Denver Broncos and the discourse surrounding their record? Do you lean more towards skepticism or belief? And what specific evidence informs your position? Please share your detailed thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. Whether you agree or disagree with my assessment, let's engage in substantive, respectful discussion. Ultimately, let's enjoy the complexity of analyzing this compelling team. Please consider subscribing. We are building a fantastic, thoughtful community here, and I would be thrilled to have you join. The goal is to create a connected space where we can all engage in intelligent sports dialogue. I believe we are making great strides toward that. Also, if you could give this video a thumbs up, it genuinely helps with visibility and supports the channel. Thank you so much for your time and engagement. I look forward to the conversation.